How often lately have you caught yourself squinting, trying to make out small print in a book or on a medicine package? Or perhaps, has it become harder to recognize familiar faces on the street until they get very close? We tend to blame this on age, don't we? We tell ourselves, well, the years are taking their toll, time for stronger glasses. But what if I told you that some changes, which seem like just annoying little things about aging, could actually be quiet signals, warning bells from our eyes, warning of something more serious? Our eyes, after all, are amazing, but also very delicate instruments, like antique clocks requiring careful maintenance. And when a gear in this mechanism starts to fail, be it a clouding of the lens, increased pressure inside the eye, or changes on the retina itself, they give us signs. Unfortunately, we often ignore them, brushing them off like an annoying fly. We continue reading in dim light, thinking we're just tired, or blame everything on glare from headlights, not realizing the problem runs deeper. It's like hearing a strange noise in your car engine and thinking, it'll go away on its own, until one day it just stalls mid-journey. But you can't do that with your vision. Today, I want to talk to you about 7 such early signs that are important not to miss. I promise, we'll discuss them simply and clearly, without complex medical terms. And knowing these signs isn't a reason to panic, but rather your chance to notice a problem in time, see a doctor, and preserve clear vision for many years to come so you can continue enjoying the colors of life, the faces of grandchildren, beloved books. All the advice will be simple and accessible. Please stay with me until the end of this conversation. It's truly important for your health and quality of life. Let's start with one of the most common, yet often ignored, changes. This isn't just the general blurriness that we get used to with age and correct with glasses. I'm talking about that feeling, as if you're constantly looking at the world through a slightly fogged up window or a thin veil, even with your new, recently prescribed glasses. You know how sometimes in the morning, a window is covered in a light mist? It's a similar feeling, but it doesn't go away. Let me tell you the story of Arthur. He was 68 years old, an avid newspaper reader. He noticed that the letters seemed somewhat faded, perhaps. At first, he blamed the print quality, then the lighting in the room. He bought a brighter lamp, changed his glasses. It seemed a bit better, but that feeling of a light haze never disappeared. He started getting irritated, angry at himself for his inattentiveness, thinking he was just getting old and his eyes weren't what they used to be. He was embarrassed to admit, even to his wife, that he struggled to make out headlines he used to see from afar. He was used to being the one who always noticed everything, and now he felt a little helpless. This constant slight blurriness got on his nerves, depriving him of the pleasure of his morning ritual with the newspaper. Finally, his wife persuaded him to see an ophthalmologist. And what do you think? It turned out Arthur was developing cataracts, a clouding of the lens. The very lens of our eye was starting to lose its transparency, like an old window pane that dulls over time. It wasn't a sharp decline, but rather a gradual, insidious fogging. After the lens replacement surgery, Arthur said it was like the world was reborn for him. Colors became brighter, outlines sharper. He could once again read his newspaper with enjoyment, and this restored not only his clear vision, but also his self-confidence. Imagine looking at a favorite painting through a dusty glass for years, and then someone wiped it clean. That's what he felt. So, if you notice that the world around you has become a bit duller, blurrier, and it's not corrected by glasses, don't brush it off. This could be the first signal that your lens needs attention. Listen to your eyes. They'll tell you. And sometimes, it's not just the fog in front of your eyes that's bothersome, but light itself becomes a problem. Another important point to pay attention to is when bright light, which didn't bother you before, suddenly starts causing discomfort, dazzling your eyes. And around light sources, especially at night, streetlights, car headlights, you start seeing rainbow circles or halos, as if there's a glow spread around them. Remember Eleanor, she was 72. She loved driving her car. It gave her a sense of freedom and independence. But gradually, she began to notice that oncoming headlights at night simply blinded her, and streetlights blurred into strange starbursts. She became afraid to drive in the dark. At first, she justified it as fatigue, then blamed too bright headlights on modern cars. She started avoiding evening trips to friends, declined invitations because she feared the drive back. She felt isolated, cut off from life, especially during the long winter evenings. It was bitter for her to lose this part of her independence. She had always been so active. Internally, she was angry with herself, her age, those stupid headlights. When she finally decided to complain to her doctor, he immediately suspected cataracts. It turned out that the clouding lens scatters light incorrectly, much like dirt or a scratch on a camera lens. The image becomes unclear, and glare and halos appear around light sources. After surgery, Eleanor could drive again at night without fear. She said it was like a greasy film had been wiped off her internal windshield. She felt like the master of her own life again, reconnected with her friends. So, if bright light has become your enemy, and rainbow circles dance around light bulbs, it's not just an inconvenience. It might be a sign that light isn't refracting correctly inside your eye. Don't let this glow dim your life. Better get your vision checked. Sometimes the problem isn't so much with clarity or reaction to light, but with the very colors of the world. This is another signal that's easy to miss, a change in color perception. You might feel that the world around seems a bit faded, has lost its vibrancy, and white objects take on a yellowish or brownish tint, as if you're looking at everything through an old, yellowed film. David, a 65-year-old amateur gardener, first noticed something was wrong while looking at his roses. Those bright red flowers he was so proud of suddenly seemed somewhat dull, almost brownish, and the blue hydrangeas looked grayish. He wondered, maybe something was wrong with the soil, or was it a new dull variety? He even felt a bit down, as the colors in his garden had always been his joy, his therapy. He started noticing that his wife's white shirt looked somewhat cream-colored too, and the snow outside the window wasn't dazzlingly white, but grayish yellow. He experienced no pain or obvious discomfort, just that the world around seemed to have lost its richness. He attributed it to cloudy weather, tired eyes, but somewhere deep down, a sense of unease began to grow. At the doctor's appointment, it turned out to be the effects of cataracts again. The clouded lens not only makes the image blurry, but also acts like a yellow filter, distorting color perception. Such changes can also be related to retinal problems, like age-related macular degeneration, AMD. After treatment, David was amazed at how bright and saturated the world turned out to be. He said it was like someone had turned up the full color on the television of his life. He saw his roses in all their glory again, and this restored not only his joy of gardening, but also his sense of fullness in life. If colors around you have started to fade, and white looks yellowish, don't think it's just a trick of the light or your mood. Perhaps it's a signal that the filter in your eye needs cleaning or checking. Cherish the brightness of your world. Speaking of light, there's the flip side. Difficulty when there's not enough of it. This is another sign, worsening vision in low light conditions. It becomes harder to navigate a room in the evening if only one lamp is on, difficult to read a menu in a dimly lit restaurant, or you stumble on the stairs in the entryway where it was always a bit dark, but you managed before. Margaret, who was 70, had always been a night owl and loved evening walks. But she started noticing that in the twilight, she found it increasingly difficult to see the path. She began to fear tripping over a curb or not noticing an obstacle. At home, she turned on every light she could, but still felt unsure of herself in the semi-darkness. She stopped going to the theater and movies because she was afraid of the darkness in the auditorium and the stairs. This severely limited her social life. She felt trapped within her four walls after sunset. She blamed it all on dim streetlights in the city and her own clumsiness. But deep down, the fear of falling and depending on others grew. It turned out that difficulty adapting to darkness can be a sign not only of cataracts, but also of more serious conditions, such as glaucoma, which affects the optic nerve, or retinal problems. Margaret was diagnosed with early-stage glaucoma. Starting treatment promptly helped slow the progression of the disease. Although her night vision didn't fully recover, knowing the problem and receiving treatment gave her more confidence. She learned to use a flashlight, ask for help when needed, and stopped blaming herself. It's like having a faulty dimmer switch. You can't make the light brighter, but you can learn to live with the available light and take care of your safety. If twilight and dim light have become a problem for you, making you feel insecure, don't ignore it. It could be a signal that your eyes need help adapting to the dark. Shed light on this issue with a visit to the doctor. But there are other, even more alarming distortions of perception. Imagine this. You're looking at something perfectly straight, but it appears, wavy. This is the fifth sign, and it's very important when straight lines start to look curved, wavy, or broken. For example, a window frame, a door jamb, the lines of tiles on the floor, or lines of text in a book suddenly appear uneven to you. Robert, 67, noticed this by chance while looking at a bookshelf. It seemed to him that one of the shelves was strangely sagging in the middle. He went closer, ran his hand over it. The shelf was perfectly straight. He thought he had imagined it. Maybe it was the way the light fell. But then he started noticing that the horizon line in a painting on the wall was also somewhat wavy, and the tiles in the bathroom were dancing. At first, he decided he was going crazy or something was wrong with his glasses. He felt a bit embarrassed to talk about it, afraid of seeming odd. He felt anxious, but put off visiting the doctor, hoping it would go away on its own. Fortunately, his daughter insisted on an examination. It turned out to be a classic symptom of age-related macular degeneration, AMD, particularly its wet form. This condition affects the central part of the retina, the macula, responsible for sharp, detailed vision. Distortion of straight lines is like an SOS signal from the most crucial part of your vision. Imagine looking at the world through a distorted mirror. That's how the affected macula begins to work. In Robert's case, seeking help early allowed treatment to begin, which halted the progression of the disease and preserved his central vision, necessary for reading and recognizing faces. If straight lines in front of your eyes start to bend, this is no joke and not just fatigue. It's a very serious signal requiring immediate attention from an ophthalmologist. Don't wait until the distorted mirror warps your entire world. Act quickly. Sometimes the problem creeps up from a completely different direction, not from the center, but from the edges of our visual field. This is perhaps one of the most insidious signs because it develops slowly and stealthily. I'm talking about a narrowing of the field of vision, loss of side, peripheral vision. You might see well straight ahead, but start noticing less of what's happening to the side, as if you're looking at the world through a tube. Susan, an energetic lady of 75, began noticing she often bumped into furniture corners that seemed to have always been in the same place. Or she was easily startled if someone approached from the side. She simply didn't see them until they were right in front of her. She attributed this to absent-mindedness, to being lost in thought. It never occurred to her that the problem might be with her eyes. After all, her straight-ahead vision was excellent. She even felt a bit offended when her children told her to be more careful, thinking they considered her old and frail. Internal discomfort grew. She felt less confident outdoors, in crowds. During a routine checkup with the ophthalmologist, which her son had insisted on, it was discovered that Susan had glaucoma. This disease often affects peripheral vision specifically, slowly and imperceptibly eating away at the field of view, like someone gradually drawing curtains across the sides of your window to the world. A person adapts, turns their head, and doesn't notice the loss until it becomes significant. Fortunately, Susan's glaucoma was detected at a stage where eye drops could be prescribed to control intraocular pressure and halt further narrowing of the visual field. This didn't restore the lost peripheral vision, but it preserved what remained. If you've started tripping or bumping into things more often, or are easily startled from the side, pay attention. Your field of vision might be narrowing unnoticed. Don't wait until the world turns into a narrow tunnel. Check your peripheral vision. And finally, the last thing I want to warn you about today involves symptoms requiring the quickest reaction. This is the sudden appearance of a large number of floaters, specks, cobwebs, dots, before your eyes, especially if accompanied by flashes of light resembling lightning or sparks, particularly in your peripheral vision. George, who was 69, one morning saw a whole swarm of black dots before his eye, which hadn't been there before, and a sort of semi-transparent curtain to the side. And later that evening, he noticed several bright flashes of light in the corner of his eye, even though the room was dark. He got scared. Unlike the previous stories where people hesitated for a long time, George remembered his doctor's words that such symptoms must not be ignored. He immediately called the clinic and was seen the same day. It turned out he had experienced a posterior vitreous detachment, PVD. The gel-like substance that fills our eye can shrink and pull away from the retina with age. Most often, this is harmless, but sometimes, as it pulls away, it can tug on the retina and cause a tear or detachment. and that is a direct threat to vision loss. The flashes of light are precisely a signal that the retina is experiencing traction. Imagine a sudden thunderstorm breaking out inside your eye, with lightning flashes and clouds of floaters. In George's case, fortunately, there was no retinal tear, but the doctor warned him to monitor his symptoms closely. Seeking prompt attention ruled out the worst and provided clear instructions for the future. Therefore, if you suddenly see a shower of floaters, a curtain, or flashes of light, don't wait a minute. This could be an emergency situation. Contact an ophthalmologist immediately. Your vigilance could save your sight. So, we've discussed 7 important signals that our eyes might be sending us. Remember, my dear friends, this isn't an attempt to frighten you, but a desire to arm you with knowledge. You've lived long, full lives, accumulated invaluable experience and wisdom. You've seen so much, and you deserve to continue seeing this world clearly and sharply, enjoying each day, the faces of loved ones, the beauty of nature. Your vision is a precious gift, and caring for it is an act of self-love and respect. Don't dismiss the quiet signals. Don't blame everything on age. If anything we've discussed today sounds familiar, please make time to visit an ophthalmologist. Early diagnosis truly is the key to preserving your vision and quality of life. You have every right to feel well and have clear vision at any age. Take care of your amazing eyes. They still have so much beauty to show you. Believe in your strength and stay healthy.